5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start. This matter involves the legal proceedings in which the complainant seeks redress for a breach of contract that allegedly occurred between the parties. The complainant contends that the respondent failed to fulfill the agreed-upon terms under the contract executed on or about a specified date. The agreement outlined several obligations, including the delivery of goods and services, as well as the payment for those goods and services in a timely manner. The complainant asserts that despite multiple requests, the respondent failed to deliver the goods by the agreed-upon deadline, resulting in significant financial losses. Additionally, the complainant claims that the respondent failed to communicate any issues that would have caused the delay, leading the complainant to incur costs associated with the procurement of alternative goods and services from a third party. The complainant further argues that the breach of contract was not only a failure to deliver the agreed-upon goods but also constituted a violation of good faith and fair dealing, which are implied obligations under the law governing contracts of this nature. The complainant requests that the court award damages, including compensation for lost profits and any consequential losses arising directly from the breach. The respondent, on the other hand, denies any wrongdoing and claims that the delay in delivery was due to unforeseen circumstances that were beyond their control. They argue that the situation was a result of circumstances such as supply chain issues and global shipping disruptions, which were publicly known at the time the contract was executed. The respondent also maintains that they made every effort to communicate the delay to the complainant in a timely manner, but the complainant did not respond to such communication in a constructive manner. In defense, the respondent asserts that the contract included a clause addressing the possibility of delays due to circumstances beyond their control, including force majeure events. The respondent argues that the situation falls under this clause and, therefore, they should not be held liable for the delay. The respondent further contends that the complainant's attempt to procure goods from a third party was an unnecessary expense and that the complainant should have allowed for additional time, as stipulated in the contract. The court must now determine whether the respondent's actions constitute a breach of contract or whether the delay is excused due to the force majeure clause. The legal standard for breach of contract requires that the complainant demonstrate that the respondent failed to perform a material obligation of the contract without a valid excuse. Additionally, the complainant must show that they suffered damages as a direct result of the respondent's failure to perform under the terms of the agreement. The court will also need to assess whether the force majeure clause applies under the specific circumstances outlined by the respondent. If the court finds that the clause is applicable, it will likely dismiss the complaint for breach of contract. However, if the court determines that the force majeure clause does not excuse the delay, the respondent may be found liable for damages and the complainant's claim may succeed. In addition to the primary issues regarding breach of contract and force majeure, the court will also need to consider whether the complainant is entitled to consequential damages. These damages are typically awarded for losses that are not directly caused by the breach, but that are a foreseeable result of the breach. The complainant will have to provide evidence that the losses incurred as a result of the delay were reasonably foreseeable and that they would not have occurred but for the respondent's failure to perform under the contract. Furthermore, the complainant's claim for lost profits will be subject to the legal standard governing the calculation of such damages. The complainant will need to demonstrate that they had an established business relationship with the respondent and that the profits they claim to have lost were a direct result of the breach. The court will carefully evaluate the evidence presented by both parties to determine the amount of damages, if any, to be awarded. In the event that the court finds in favor of the complainant, it will then proceed to consider the appropriate remedies. The complainant may be entitled to an award of actual damages, which would compensate them for the direct financial losses incurred due to the breach. In addition, the complainant may seek consequential damages for any losses that were indirectly caused by the breach, provided that these losses were reasonably foreseeable at the time the contract was formed. The complainant may also seek an order of specific performance, compelling the respondent to fulfill their obligations under the contract, although this remedy is generally only available in cases where monetary damages are insufficient to address the harm. On the other hand, if the court finds in favor of the respondent, the case will be dismissed and the complainant's claims for damages will be denied. The respondent may seek to recover any legal costs associated with defending the lawsuit, although this is generally subject to the court's discretion. The court may also consider whether either party has acted in bad faith during the course of the litigation and whether sanctions are appropriate. In addition to the legal issues presented, the court must also address any procedural matters that may arise during the course of the proceedings. These include the admissibility of certain evidence, the scope of discovery, and any motions for summary judgment or other preliminary rulings. The parties have the right to seek such rulings, and the court will make decisions based on the applicable rules of procedure and the facts presented. In conclusion, the outcome of this case hinges on whether the respondent's actions constitute a breach of contract, whether the force majeure clause applies, and whether the complainant is entitled to any damages. The court will carefully consider all of the evidence and arguments presented by the parties before rendering a decision. The decision will have significant implications for both parties. Stop.